What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about how you can go from the worst route runner on your team to the best route runner on your team. So this first example here is going to be a slant route versus a DB who's playing inside shade press. So something a lot of bad route runners do is that whenever they have inside leverage, no matter what the route is, they will force the release to the side of where the route is breaking. So a slant route is obviously an inside breaking route. Same thing with a dig route, a post route. Obviously, those are going to be a little bit different than the slant, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But a lot of receivers, what they'll do is they maybe give like a quick fake to the outside, try to force the inside release and break to the slant. But the issue is that whenever you get a DB who's lined up inside leverage, that's what we're looking for primarily when we come up to the line of scrimmage. What's his leverage? That tells you what his goal is with the coverage. His goal with this coverage is to not let us go to the inside and not let us run an inside route. He wants to force us to the sideline, which is what can cut off space between our route and the quarterback, if you will. So a lot of guys, they force it. What we need to do is we want to attack this DB's outside shoulder and outside hip, and the goal is to force him to open up his hips so we could cut back underneath them, specifically on a slant route, because that is a quick route. So I'm going to play this full speed, and then we'll break it down a little bit more. So he just move inside, 3 hard steps to the outside. It was more like 5 steps, and that's able to get that DB to flip his hips, and we could cut back underneath. So let's talk about it. So if you're running like a simple post route, obviously that's a deeper route. That's like 10 yards downfield, 12 yards downfield. So what you would do is you'd attack this DB's leverage, you'd take the outside release, and our goal would be to stack him. We want to get this DB trailing directly behind me, so I can maybe at the top of the break give him a fake outside and then go to the post. But I still maintain spacing. I wouldn't want to give him a jab fake and force the inside release, because same thing will happen. He'll get hands, he'll force me to the inside, and when he gets hands, that screws up timing with the quarterback. That's the whole purpose of a DB jamming in the first place, and that can screw up spacing on an actual play concept. Now, on a slant route, or even just like a 5-yard under, anything 5 yards or below, we obviously can't try to stack him. If we try to stack him, then that's not really going to work out. So what we have to do is we have to work this throw-by move. So he gives a little jab fake inside to make it look more like he's releasing to the outside, and then he attacks this outside hip and outside shoulder. It's very important when we attack this outside hip and outside shoulder, we focus on 3 things, you guys. Number 1 is going to be your body language, your hips, your shoulders, your head. Everything needs to look like you are running a vertical. A lot of times before wide receivers cut on this type of move, they'll raise up, they start to lean back, and that's a key indicator to this DB's eyes that a break is about to be coming, and he will not open up the gate, which means get his hips open to the opposite end zone. Now, the second thing you got to focus on is speed. When he comes off this ball, you see how fast he's running. He's attacking that outside shoulder. He's making it look like a fade, as well as with his body language, but also with his speed. And then last but not least, his strides. He's not taking these short, choppy strides. He's gaining ground off the ball. We want to make it look exactly like a fade until the last possible second, where you use that inside arm and you put it on the back of the DB's shoulder, back of the DB's hip, and then you swap by and slip underneath him. And now you maintain spacing. Now you got off the break with great timing, because the DB's not jamming us and forcing us inside, and we can get separation. So guys, when it comes to our routes, we always need to have a plan. Bad route runners don't have a plan. They just try to get up off the ball as quickly as possible, force it to the inside, and then that screws up, again, spacing and timing. That is always the number 1 key. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great example of a diamond release where this receiver throws by and slips back underneath. Now, before we get into this next clip, you guys, if you are a wide receiver and you guys would like a 2-month-long workout schedule that you can follow, go to that very first link in the description below for our elite wide receiver training package. What you'll get access to is 2 months of daily workouts in the gym and on the field, and you will get access to a 4-week speed and agility training workout. So it's 3 workout plans all mixed in together. Every single exercise and drill has a video example. We give you the exact sets and reps, and we put it into a schedule, you guys. So Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that. It's all easily labeled and all easy to follow. So guys, if you want to improve your skills this summer as a wide receiver or this offseason, very first link in the description below, that is where you can get access to our elite wide receiver training package. Let's get back to this video. Now, this next example here is from Bijan Robinson running like a fade route where he gives this little like inside fake. Some people might consider this like a sluggo route where he gives like 3 steps to the inside. I would consider it more of a fade route if you ask me. Or actually, I would consider it more of a sluggo route, excuse me, because these 3 steps we're trying to get this DB to crash on the slant and then we slip behind him. But one of the things that bad route runners do, and this is a bad example of this, you guys, that we're going to look at, is that they don't focus on separating from the DB so they can catch up to the quarterback's throw. The quarterback is putting this this thing with some air, and he is putting it to a spot, and our job is to get to that spot. So a lot of people will blame the quarterback on this, but this is actually the wide receiver's fault. Now, I know Robinson's a running back, so obviously you got to give him a little bit of leeway here because he's not a true and true like X wide receiver, Z wide receiver, but it's good for you guys to learn from because a lot of young wide receivers do this. So let's play this full speed. So he breaks to the slant, 3 steps, gets that DB to crash, but he's looking back for the ball right away, and that ball drops maybe a yard in front of him. If he would have kept his head down and accelerated, he would have been able to catch up to this pass. So this is not the quarterback's fault because, again, he gets him to crash down. We got him. Right here, he should be putting his head down. He should be pumping his arms, and he should be trying to focus on separating from the DB. You got to understand when a quarterback is putting the ball downfield, he is throwing it to a spot. He's not throwing it to us. He's putting it to a spot with enough air to let us go chase it down, and it's our job to get there. But if you're running like this, you're automatically slower. But if he would have just put his head down, even for just 3 steps, gets him to go, puts that head down right here, pumps his arms, and he just takes a simple 3-step break, and he focuses on driving, focuses on separating from the DB, he will catch up to this pass. So this is the same thing on a fade route if you have press coverage, you guys. Like, let's say, for example, he's off the ball right here. He's got inside leverage. He works some type of release, and he releases outside. We can't look back for the ball right away. If you're in the goal line or the red zone, then yeah, maybe that's a little bit different story, but you have to focus on separating. I want to freeze him with the move, and then I want to leave him by putting my head down and pumping my arm so I could separate from that DB. Now, this is a great example of a wide receiver using tempo. To be the best route runner on your team, you got to have a little bit of creativity with your routes. I'm not talking about doing the fancy, like, hip twist, shift, go up into the break, do a bunch of moves, and then go, because that's unrealistic. It is very, very rare. Like, if you're concerned about, like, you see different videos on social media, different clips of wide receivers doing all this fancy stuff, like, look at NFL wide receivers. Look at high-level college wide receivers, because you know what's so important at that level? Timing. Because football, they say it all the time, it is a game of inches. And inches, when it comes to like passing concepts, the passing game, it's all about timing. Can you get open when the quarterback requires you to get open on a specific play? So there are efficient ways to add creativity to your routes. And this is a great way that this wide receiver does that. So he's running just a simple dig route, and he has a DB who's lined up outside leverage, off man coverage, right? So what we'd want to do is we want to attack this DB's leverage, make him think we're going to the outside to widen him, and then break it off, obviously, to my dig route, to my post route, to my curl route, whatever inside breaking route that we have. So he comes off the ball, gives a little tempo change, then accelerates, and then gets that DB to bail, because that is ultimately how you'd run a fade route versus this coverage. When you come off the ball, guys, if you were running a fade and you had this type of look, you would probably need to do something mid-route to try to get that DB to stop his feet, and then you'd beat him. Sometimes what guys do is when they just run hard right at this DB, that's not how they'd run a fade, right? You got to be able to self-fade on every single route, whether it's a 5-yard hitch, whether it's a quick slant that we talked about in the beginning of this video, or whether it is a dig route, right? So you have to self-fade all the way up until the break point. And adding that little tempo change, adding that little hesitation that he does mid-route sells it even more, puts that DB on alert. It's almost like using a double move on a single move route or a single cut route. So again, he comes off the ball, slows himself down, then re-accelerates. He goes from 0 to 100, and that is what puts that DB on alert. That is what making him think that, okay, he's trying to run past me. Maybe you've used this move before. Maybe you're just like a receiver and you're backside on a play. Maybe they're working a concept on the right and you're trying to set up this DB. So you use that little tempo change, then you run him off, right, on a slot fade. You'd want to do the exact same thing when you have to run inside breaking routes and you're actually a part of the play. It's all a setup. It's all a mind game. So guys, if you can effectively change tempo but not screw up the timing of the play, that's going to get you a lot of separation on your routes, and that's how you could be one of the better route runners on your team. Now, this next example is a great example of a wide receiver getting skinny on his routes. And this is something that all great route runners do to get more separation at the top of the break. So this wide receiver is going to be running a 10-yard out route, and he has a DB who's lined up like inside leverage and catch man, which essentially means he's like 1-2 yards away. Sometimes catch man can be played 3 yards away. So what this DB is hoping is that he can maintain this space and force this wide receiver to the outside if he has to run an outside breaking route. And obviously with his leverage, he is trying to prevent the inside breaking route. So when he does this move, he closes the space. That's the most important thing. Anytime you have catch technique, you got to close the space with the DB and you got to try to get to his toes. And then it's about attacking his leverage. Now, after this is what makes or breaks the wide receiver. after he closes the space and after he gives this move right here, what could happen is he could widen himself, right? He could end up just running to the outside, running away, and taking this really wide stem and breaks to the out route. That means he's going to be to the out route too soon. The quarterback's not going to be ready for him. So what we have to do is we have to get skinny, which means you want to get your hip and you want to get your shoulder right into this DB when you are working your stem. So you see how he starts to lean back into him, because at the break point, what you can do is you can almost push off without getting called for a push off. You use your body to push off rather than like pushing off with your hand, which can more likely get a flag called on you, right? So let's watch this thing again, or let's break this down slow-mo. So he comes off the ball, again, attacks his leverage, and then right here, this is what makes or breaks him. He starts getting back into this DB, starts leaning into him, because that is how the route is drawn up. If the route is drawn on paper like this, right? You have to try to run the route like this. Your out route, if it's drawn on paper straight up to 10, then you break out, or straight up to 15, then you break out. You can't run it wide and then break to the out route. You're going to get to the spot too fast, and that can allow the DB to close in because the quarterback's not ready to make that throw. Like, let's say it's a flood concept, right? Let's say it's like this 10-yard out, and then we got a 5-yard out coming underneath. We got a fade. The QB's got reads. Maybe he's doing some type of play action. Maybe he's rolling out. We can't get to this spot too fast. So that's what getting skinny does, but it's a way to also get separation, because when you lean into this DB, and let's say he gets even a little bit closer to him and he's hip to hip with him, you could lean with your body and maybe even draw a holding call, because that DB is going to try to get handsy at the top of the break. So that is a textbook example of why you need to get skinny. So if you release outside and you have an outside breaking route, you should always be trying to get skinny on your stem. The goal is to stack him, but if I can't stack him, I need to get skinny so I can lean, and so I can ultimately maintain spacing on my play.